I took that anger. I wanted to like punch Bill right in his face after that happened. Just because I'm like sitting here, I'm like put my time. I'm doing everything I can.
Hey everybody, Trey Wingo here. Welcome into another episode of Half Forgotten History. This week's guest had a serious bromance crush on Tom Brady. No, it's not Gronk, it's the other one, Julian Edelman. His journey to being one of the clutchest receivers in Patriots football history is really remarkable, considering he started out being drafted very late as an undersized quarterback and then turned that through sheer hard work and determination into being the receiver that Tom Brady ended up trusting almost more than anybody else he ever threw the football to in New England. And now, of course, he's doing great things in the media, and he's going to be a star there just like he was in the NFL. Sit back and enjoy this episode with former Patriots wideout Julian Edelman. All right, let's start here. Are you really retired? Because a lot of these Patriots, they find a way, these expats, they find a way to come back and play again. So definitively, are you done?
I mean, technically, I'm done right now. So
see, right there. You said right now, right away. Yeah. You put in a qualifier.
I am. You are correct. I am retired right now. So,
do you want to at someday be unretired?
I don't know. You know, I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season of Games with Names presented by WinBet, and then also my new team on Inside the NFL, which streams on Paramount Plus. Shameless plugs left and right, but that's what I'm honestly on right now.
No, I appreciate it, and have forgotten.
But I am staying in shape. Trey.
But you got that caveat. I mean, listen, we're all about the shameless plugs, as we're brought to you by a million fabulous companies that we will insert in the commercial breaks. So we'll hold that as a potential maybe that we'll see 11 on the field again somewhere, sometime. But if it is officially over and we're doing Games with Names with my good friend Sam, and we'll get into that a little bit later, and obviously all the stuff you're doing on Inside the NFL, how would Julian Edelman describe his NFL career?
Probably an overachiever. Someone that competed, someone that tried to do what was best for his team throughout his whole career. Of course, there's ups and downs, but I tried to be a good teammate, and ultimately tried to go out and win football games and do what I was told by the people that were leading the ship. So that's what I feel like I would try to go down as.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with that assessment of your career. So before we get to the NFL part of it, you're from the San Francisco area, Redwood City, right? Not too far away. When did you have or think about potentially any aspirations of playing college ball, let alone professional football? Because I'm looking here and it says you had a growth spurt at some point when you started with your freshman football. You were like 5 feet. Is that what it was?
Something like that. Yeah, I was about 5 feet. Was definitely a late bloomer. It was nuts. I played Pop Warner from 8 to about 14. Then I went to high school, and from like 8 to 12, I was like the most dominant athlete. And then everyone hit puberty, and I didn't hit puberty. So, I was able to compete, which in hindsight and looking back on it, it ultimately trained me and put a chip on my shoulder because I got so mad about it because you go and compete against these kids that you used to dominate, and then they were just now bigger and they were faster. But it trained me going forward to A, have that chip on your shoulder, and B, know how to you have to come up with different dynamics of the game, learning vision and learning how to play the game to get your advantage, because I couldn't outrun people. I couldn't, I wasn't bigger than guys. So, looking back on it, everything happens for a reason. But yeah, I was very small when I was younger.
Listen, and for those that didn't go through that, I grew 4 inches in college. Okay, so I get it. I was a later bloomer than you. It sucks. I cannot begin to explain to people who weren't prepubescent boys when everyone else had hair everywhere and was talking like this. I'd come into the gym and say, "Hi guys," it sucks. That might have been the worst part of my life. It was so bad.
I agree. I mean, I remember going into my dad's room and crying and
Yeah.
just being like, Dad, when am I going to grow? And it wasn't like I was getting embarrassed or anything. I was still a very like competitive kid, and I held my own. I was still like a stud, but I just always wanted to be, just hit my spurt, just like you said. There was
Yeah.
like, as a young boy that's going through, growing up and puberty and being around other kids, that's a huge part of it.
Listen, when I was 16, I looked for, and there was a guy in my high school named Salvatore Tartaglione. He was 6'3" and with a full beard in the 8th grade. He had so much hair on his body. He was a swimmer. He could carve out the letters GHS and shave it out of his chest hair. And he was a year younger than me, and I was like, this is not fair.
Yeah,
This is not fair and not fun for anybody.
yeah, the old late bloomers.
Yeah. So, well, listen, you achieved. That's all that matters. So, when you hit that and you started to play a little bit, when did you start thinking, okay, maybe I'll go play college ball?
I mean, that was always the goal. I grew up going to Stanford games and going to like the San Jose State, arena or whatever, or wherever they played at. I think it was
Right.
Spartan Stadium, and in the Bay Area, college sports they weren't like when I went to Ohio and I experienced people
Right.
loving Ohio State everywhere in the
Right.
state. Like it's not like that in the Bay Area. It's a pro sport town or area. You got the Niners, the Giants, and the Warriors. Like no one really cared about it. It was fun, but there was always a saying like if you were a stud when we were like in junior high school, we'd always say that's so D1 because it was like a D1 athlete. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that
Yeah.
kid's throw over there, that was D1. Or, like if you were shooting, playing horse and you made a crazy shot or something, that's so D1. So we would always start, playing with that term. And that's when I started really wanting to play football uh, at a Division I level, which was probably in junior high. And that was my ultimate goal. Of course, we all dreamed of going to the National Football League. But like
Yeah.
I always had something in my life that like I was battling. So like when I was younger, I didn't hit puberty until later, so I always had this thing on my mind. Like I was always trying to prove these people wrong, and I kept everything on my plate at that time to do that. And then, going into junior college, I didn't get recruited, so like I was just trying to find my way and earn my teammates' respect through my play, and that's what was on my mind. And then I got a scholarship to Kent, and it was like the same thing. I'm just trying to win ball games. I want to be the 5'10" quarterback that came from California JUCO that's going to help this team have a winning season. For one of the first times in well, I don't even know how many years, but that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
about. It was never really like, all right, the NFL is the goal. I'm going to go to the NFL right now. It was always like there was always something in my way that, when I look back on it, was probably great and kept me naive to even thinking about, that process of going somewhere, before attaining these little goals and these little battles, which ultimately trained me to get there.
Yeah, well, listen, you were absolutely that stud and very D1 at Kent State. I mean, you're a 3-year starter. You broke Joshua Cribbs' a single season school record for total offense. I mean, so you had success there. After your 3 years there, did you entertain the idea? Because that would seem like the next progression for you.
Yeah. I mean, I remember walking off the field against Buffalo at Buffalo University or University of Buffalo. It was my last football game. And like reality hit me because
Yeah.
it was almost such a huge task to like, all right, are you going to play in the am I going to play in the CFL? Because I had scouts ask, talking to me and what am I going to try to change positions and go play in the National Football League? I've never played receiver. These guys are pros, so you have this intimidation factor of that. And it wasn't until I did flirt with the idea of becoming a fireman. I went and visited some firehouses just in case. But it wasn't until I hired my agent, Don Yee and Dubin Sports, and Steve Dubin and Carter Chow. It wasn't until I hired them until I fully got like a confidence that all right, man, I can go play in the league. And Don hit me up, and he was representing my coach at the time, Coach Doug Martin at Kent State, and I didn't have any agents really approaching me, and he hit me up and he said, "Hey, you make people look dizzy on film. I'm gonna call you Dizzy or something like that." And Don's got a real mellow tone, like
Yeah.
way of speaking, and he goes, it's hard for me to think that if you get into a camp in the NFL, a team's gonna cut you. And once I heard that, that's kind of when it gave me like, confidence. And then I went and started training, and I met up with the guy. I met up with Charlie Fry, and we linked up somehow at this training facility. And he started throwing to me, which was like super beneficial to have a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like at the time, I think he was with the Raiders or the Browns.
Yeah.
Those years ago. But to have him taking time out of his day to work with, a kid from a rival school that's trying to convert from quarterback to receiver at the pro level. So, there's a lot of things that happened, but you know, it was pretty nuts.
Don Yee, very super beneficial for a variety of reasons we'll get into a little bit later there.
No,
But I'm curious, the fireman thing, what if it wasn't going to work out, what made you want to be a fireman?
I think it's just like the camaraderie of like the firehouse. I had some, you know, friends, parents that were firemen or firewomen, and I just always thought it was pretty cool. These guys are like fearless dudes that jump into fires and go save people, help people. But also that camaraderie figure that you're in the house with the guys or the people, the ladies as well, and just having that like team atmosphere. Something that's something I like and I thrive off of. Um, you know, so
I
that's
think,
probably
yeah,
it.
I think a lot of Patriot fans would think you would have been a really good fireman. I mean, that's from the way you carried yourself on the field, but you didn't have to do that because even though you didn't get to the combine. By the way, how devastating is that for a guy like yourself? That combine, like for the top guys in the draft every year, the combine is what it is. It's a dog and pony show. Most of those guys know where they're going in the first 2 rounds. The combine is an ultimate opportunity for someone like yourself, a guy who's trying to change positions after being an undersized quarterback at Kent State. How devastating, or what was the feeling when you didn't get the invite to the combine?
I was just pissed off,
Yeah,
and then that's what happens. I was young, like, oh, f these guys. This is rigged. Look, you're like 22 years old, so especially me, I got really pissed off, and I tried to harness it and use it as fuel for my pro day, and really, that's when I started learning to worry about what you really could control. That was like the
yeah.
beginning phases of that huge life lesson that works in any aspect of life, of just like really you can't worry about things you can't control because it's just going to make you mad, and it's going to take time and energy away from things that you really have to work on to get to where you're trying to go.
Well, it certainly paid off for you because at your pro day, you ran the short shuttle in 3.92, which was faster than any short shuttle at the combine that year, and you got the attention of all people, the New England Patriots. They brought you in for some private workouts before the draft. What went through your mind when they started paying attention to you?
I got excited. uh the different thing about the Patriots was they initially sent out Ivan Fears, who was their running backs coach. And,
Yeah.
once again, I was fortunate enough. Charlie Fry would come to my school and throw to me. And so we would come up with this routine of like, things he thought I should run for scouts. And he kind of trained me like, all right, you got to get this 10-yard out, get the 5-yard rolled out, like, which that's huge. I didn't know what I was really
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And so to have that, and especially have the timing with someone who knows your body mechanics and stuff, we've been working together. But, Ivan had me running out of the backfield doing a bunch of running back things, and he could see I could stop on a dime on these return drills he was making me do. And so then he put me out at receiver and had me do receiver drills as well. And then the crazy thing about that is they left, and he put me on the board, the chalkboard. and tested the hell out of me. And I was like making stuff up. I was like, oh, like I call protections as a quarterback at Kent State,
Yeah.
but like we're 19 years old. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Block that guy.
Yeah, block that guy. And so like I'm over here, like this is an inverted six, and Ivan's busting my balls the whole time. Like what? And like after that, I'm like, these guys hate me. They're never gonna let me come play on their team. And then a week later, I get a call from the Patriots again. They want to send out their special teams coordinator, and so that's pretty unusual to have a team work you out twice. You know, I was
Right.
getting worked out by a bunch of other teams, and a lot of teams were, working me out as running back and safety, and receiver, and then the Patriots sent out Scotty O'Brien, and he made me catch some punts and kickoffs, and just kind of talk to me and feel the kind of person I was, which he's a huge part of that, generation of drafted players. They say he's a really good talent evaluator. I guess that's like the MO of Scotty O'Brien.
Yeah.
So that was pretty unusual. That's when I kind of figured that, they were interested. But then after that process of the workouts, you go into team visits. So you go to the team will say, hey, we want to bring you out on a visit. We're going to fly you out to our facility. They give you like a physical. They show you around the facilities. They kind of want to like learn you more and kind of, analyze what kind of person you are. They'll interview you. They'll bring you in the chalkboard. They'll introduce you to all the coaches. And it's just another step before the draft. And, I went to like 3 or 4 visits, and the Patriots didn't give me a visit. And I was like, oh, these fucking guys. Are you allowed to swear in this thing? Okay.
I don't fucking care. It's all
right,
good,
okay.
bro.
Yeah. So I'm like, these fucking guys, they're out of the picture. And so from there on, I was like, man, I think I might be a Miami Dolphin, because everyone was very excited about the Wildcat. That was 2009.
Yeah. Right.
And I rushed for like 1,400 yards my senior year. So I had like this running dynamic, and that like ultimately is what put me on the map for all these teams. And, so that I thought I was going to go to Miami potentially.
Instead, you get a call from the Patriots in the 7th round. Picked what, 223? Is that what it was? 223?
I think it's like 232 or something like that.
232. It was 232. So for someone like yourself who knew you weren't going to be an early round draft pick, how agonizing is the wait for that phone to ring? Like Brady to this day still talks about how important it was for him to get drafted in the 6th round. What was it like hanging on, waiting for the 7th?
I was just honestly excited to get drafted. I was playing quarterback, and the amount of work I put in to get to that point to even have the consideration to be drafted, I was just excited for that. And then in that 6th round, 7th round, there's, you get the priority free agent calls. And so at that point, I had like 6 teams lined up asking me, here, we'll give you like 20 grand, come sign on our team. We want you to in camp. And, at that point, I was like really excited to get a call, because you get a little bummed if you weren't going to get drafted.
Yeah. So then you get drafted, and it's all good, right? Because everyone knows what happens when Julian Edelman wanted to be drafted by the Patriots, and we all know what transpired. But getting to that point wasn't as easy, I think. A lot of people forget there were some years where we weren't sure what was going to happen with Julian Edelman. So why don't we take our first break here and Have Forgotten History, and we'll come back. We'll talk about how he went from a guy sort of hanging on to becoming a staple for the Patriots offense in their Super Bowl years after the first couple. We're coming right back. Stay with us. Time for a Mercedes-Benz trivia segment, and Julian Edelman is one of only 8 wide receivers ever to be named Super Bowl MVP. How many of the other 7 can you name? We'll give you the answer after the next break. You open up a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter and you're opening more than doors. You're unlocking potential to do your own thing, be your own boss, and live out your own dreams. With 16 body types, your choice of a gas or diesel engine, and thousands of ways to customize, a Sprinter van is capable and versatile enough to help you drive your ambitions as far as you want to take them. So go ahead, unlock your potential inside a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. All right, back on Have Forgotten History with Julian Edelman. So you get drafted, right? You're there, everything's good. But those first couple of years, look, you flashed on special teams, and that's probably why you made the roster that first year. But it was a slow process for them to integrate you into the offense in a meaningful way.
Yeah, it was. It's tough playing behind a guy like Wes Welker when he's in his prime, and he was a technician in that system, and I was a a quarterback from college trying to come in and compete, with those guys, and it didn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes experience, it takes repetition of doing something, whether it's a good rep or a bad rep. Those reps were so valuable to me because ultimately I could, put the tool on my belt if it went right. Remember if it didn't go right. So, it was hard sledding for a long time, and it was even harder because after my rookie year, Wes went down with his ACL, and I balled out in the playoffs. I had 2 touchdowns.
Right.
We got our asses whooped by the Ravens.
Yeah.
But I had like 46 total playoff and regular season catches, and so I had some confidence going into the year too. And then Wes Welker, he came back and was lights out, and was Wes Welker, and you know that was humbling. I had like 7 catches my next year, and I had to reinvent myself and really make myself valuable to the team through versatility, or I wasn't going to get the job because I wasn't good enough at receiver yet. I didn't know the position well enough. I didn't play the position long enough to just go in and be able to earn that right to play on that offense. So that's what happened for those 3 or 4 years. And then, going in my fourth year, I had some years under my belt, and things were going real well. And, I ended up even starting that year. And that Wes was there, and I cracked the lineup a little bit, and then I broke my hand, and I was out for 2 weeks, and then get back in the lineup and ball out for 3 games, and then I break my foot and I'm out for the year, and so the next year we go in or we sign Danny Amendola. Danny comes in, gets a big contract, rightfully so for what the production he had in his career at that point. And Wes leaves, and I'm sitting there off a broken foot on a 1-year deal, and that's kind of where it starts.
2010, 7 receptions. 2011, 4. 2012, 21. So finally, you think, okay, Wes is leaving, goes to free agency, goes to Denver.
I thought it was my keys. I thought I was getting the keys to the Cadillac.
And then they go inside. And let me be real, I love Amendola. I used to call him when he played for the Rams. They were the St. Louis Amendolas. He was the best player on that team. There's no question about it. But when you saw that they signed him, was there anybody who goes, guys, I'm right here. Like, can't you see me? Do you not understand that I can help you?
I got so pissed. I was really mad. And that was you get humbled in the NFL, especially with the business side of things. And I've been humbled so many times where you just sit there and you're like, I'm right here. And yet it hurts you. But then you realize that this is a business, and what are you gonna do? And that's what that was always my mindset. I took that anger. I wanted to punch Bill right in his face after that happened, just because I'm sitting here, I'm put my time, I'm doing everything I can, but when you look back on it, I didn't have the production. I got hurt. I was, there was things. So now that I'm older, I realize, but at that time in my life, I was pissed off, and I used that energy to really work harder and become obsessive with trying to prove people wrong. And that's what I did.
Well, it certainly paid off, because the year that Amendola came over, you arguably had your best season. 11 starts, 105 catches. Over 1,000 receiving yards. I mean, how much of that was motivation to say, guys, next time, don't bring in somebody. I'm the guy that can get this done.
I mean, I think it's a combination of a whole lot of things. I mean, Aaron Hernandez is off the team. Gronk hurts his back. Danny gets hurt. And so, honestly, I just got opportunity in, and once that opportunity came, I was like, I'm not letting them take it away from me. And that's kind of what happened. It took a whole lot of shit to happen, but and a lot of unfortunate things, but that's life. And if you get an opportunity, all you can do is is try to take advantage of it and have yourself prepared before you get that opportunity. And that's what I thought.
Well, you guys made it to the AFC Championship game that year. You lost to the Broncos 26-16. They go get thumped in Super Bowl 48.
Yep.
And then Super Bowl 49 rolls around, and you guys have absolutely another stellar year. You get there, and what was the moment like for you when you realized, holy shit, we're doing this. I'm in the game. We're here. This is the thing that every kid talks about his entire life.
That whole week of preparation, those 2 weeks, I just kept on thinking to myself, the first Super Bowl I played, I wasn't really a piece. It was 2011.
46.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 46.
46. Yeah. Like, I played like 5 plays, and I was so you get mad about that. You're like, man, I wish I would have got to play more. And we were that year in Super Bowl 49. I just kept remembering, my feeling of how I felt when I didn't get to play, and the role that I had going into this Super Bowl, and that I wanted to do everything everything that I possibly could do to like not have the man, I wish I would have after a game.
Yeah.
Because we all had that after, Super Bowl 46 when we lost in Indy. And, I just kept on thinking, I just want to do everything I can to help this. We need to win this. I just want to win this game. And that's ultimately when when I developed, the Super Bowl routines that I kept going forward in the other ones. So,
well, people forget, like, you guys were down big in that game. You were down 10 points late in that game, and you got rocked in Super Bowl 49. I mean, like, were you good? Were you good after that hit? Because a lot of people were really concerned about you.
Yeah, I was good. It was definitely a bang bang hit, but what people don't see, on the punt return before that, I took a hip shot. A dude gave me a hip pointer. And that thing, like, that's like one of the worst just painful injuries. And so, like, on the last part of that play, yeah, I got banged. It wasn't like I didn't get killed, but like I was fine mentally and like concussion wise. I just couldn't get up because my hip was like pulling from the hip pointer, and then like in between plays when your adrenaline goes down, tighten up. So then it tightened up after the play, and I was like, But yeah, I was good. It's football.
So it is. But both of the Super Bowls that you guys won, that you were a part of, craziest endings of all time, right? Like 49, there's the infamous video of Tom Brady hopping up and down on the Malcolm Butler interception. What was going through your mind, first of all, when you see the big play to get him down there, the unbelievable catch, which, by the way, you would top later in a couple of years, which we'll get to. What was going through your mind as you see them and you're thinking, holy shit, we're right here and they're gonna do this? Like, where was your confidence level at that point?
I was really looking at the clock and I was doing math, because look, I know it's the Super Bowl, but on that team, within that 7 years of my career, like, we've been in down and so many crazy things have happened. So you never feel like you're out of a game, like, right, regardless. So like, I'm already just trying to do what, they kind of preached to us when that situation was going down. I was going through like, all right, we're potentially going to have like maybe like 17, 20 seconds. We'll probably have no time. You're going through situational football, and that's what we're talked to, we talk about all day there. And, of course, after that catch, you're like, oh, fuck, dude, this is going to be, it's going to be a bitch. And, thank God the next play, we got our 2 plays later, the play before the interception that Malcolm Butler had. People forget that Dante Hightower's tackle, one-arm tackle on Marshawn was life-saving. That guy's a beast.
Yeah, but it had to be sickening, right? Because there's nothing you can do at that point, right? All you can do is, like, one of my guys I used to work all the time said, coaches have all the power and no control. And I sort of felt in that situation like you had done almost everything you could do, but there was nothing you could do to fix what was happening in front of you.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking like that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You always got to believe.
You were planning ahead. I got it. Belichick instilled that in you, no question. So that crazy ending, and then Super Bowl 50, obviously, Peyton comes back and finishes up his career and goes to the last Super Bowl. Then you guys come back in Super Bowl 51, and 28-3 that year in Houston. What's going through your mind there?
We better get our shit together. Or it's going to be an embarrassment. And
Yeah.
you've had those, but then at halftime, you go in at halftime, and we were driving the ball decently. It wasn't like we were getting
Yes. You weren't
stuffed.
finishing. You just weren't finishing.
We talked about three things going to that Super Bowl:
Yeah.
scoring in the red area, doing well on third down, and taking care of the football. Well, we on a third down in the red area, we threw a pick six. So like that
Yeah.
happens. The LeGarrette Blount, fumble on a gash play happens. Like things just we needed to settle down and really just play each play the way it needed to be played instead of the way we were playing in the beginning of the game. So that's what was going through my head. Like, all right, well, we need to get this together. We can't fuck up no more. We're gonna run out our chances. We're gonna run out of time. And that's kind of what was going through our head.
There was never a situation where you thought it was too big, down 25?
Nah, not yet. Nah, not yet.
I
Buffalo came
respect
back.
that.
Well, Buffalo came
Yeah.
back from 35-0 in that AFC Championship.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it was 35-10, but yeah, it was
10.
bad. It
Bad.
was bad.
We got
Yeah,
Tom
it was
Brady.
bad.
Okay, we'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, two things I remember about that. One, when the after the Super Bowl was done, they had the Falcons mic'd up on the sidelines, and they were feeling good. I remember some of the Falcons saying, "But that's Tom Brady, though." And I'm like, "Bro, you cannot think that way, right? You have to think we're up 28-3. Let's keep the pedal going." The other thing I remember about Super Bowl specifically is that you guys got down there a couple of times late in that third quarter and the fourth quarter, and you didn't get the touchdown, but Bill kept kicking field goals. And the idea of, everyone wants everybody to go for it until they don't make it. Then you're like, oh, it's a terrible decision. What I remember most about that is like Bill's doing everything he can to extend the game. Because I kick this field goal to make it 28-9, then it goes to 28-12. Okay, then it's 2 points. Then it's a 2-touchdown game with two 2-point conversions. Granted, it's not likely to happen, but it keeps you in the game. And that's the thing that I remember most about that game is everyone was yelling at him every time down there, go for it, go for it. And he did what he needed to do to keep you guys in the game for as long as possible to see if the other team would make the big mistake.
That sounds like the National Football League to this day right now. I mean, all these coaches
Yeah.
going for it on fourth down. I mean, just take the points.
Yeah. Right?
Sometimes, yeah, that's how I thought that way. Yeah, I'd rather get the points, and then all right,
Just extend the game. Just extend, because if you go for it and you don't make it 28-9, you're not coming back from that if it's 28-12. That's a totally different. I mean, that's math.
Yeah, it's that what we kept on saying at halftime. You're not going to win this thing back up in one play. It's going to take. This is going to be a process. All right, let's just chip away at it. Third down in the red area, you don't get it. Let's get the field goal. Let's round up the troops. Let's go to the sideline, make our adjustments, get our mind right for the next drive, and let's go execute and score the next time. And that's what the mindset we had going. No one was really concerned about kicking the field goals or not. We were just concerned about getting it in the end zone when we had an opportunity.
Right. So then we get to the catch. Take us through the catch that many have called the greatest single catch in the history of the Super Bowl. I still can't believe you. I mean, you did catch it. I still can't believe how you caught it. Like, I looked at that in real time. I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that. Then I saw the first replay. I'm like, wait a minute, I think he did. Then I saw the second replay. I'm like, holy shit, how did he catch that ball? Take us through that play.
Yeah, it's a shoot route, which is like a versus two safeties. You keep it skinny to that near upright. Versus one safety, you bring it to a cross. You bring across the field. And so that we got that look, the two safety look. And during the week of prep, we got that look a couple times. And me and Tommy connected on it. I was running good.
Yeah.
I felt like I had that route down. And once that happens in practice, when we hit it in practice, if I see the look that we're going to get pre-snap, I can already know that the ball's coming to me. Especially in the situation that we were in, we needed a chunk play. That's the chunk play, really spot on that coverage. And so we get into the route. I run the route. I ran a really sloppy route. I mean, we were pretty high on route play count that time. It was we were low key kind of gassed, and I ran
Well,
a.
so were they, by the way. So
They
were
were
they.
too. So they were too. But ran a shitty, sloppy, like banana route, which is like the worst way to run that middle read.
It's funny you say that because everyone thought that the Falcons were gassed at that point, but no one had anything left in the tank at this point with everything you had got to come back to try and sort of climb that mountain.
Yeah, but we were all gassed. And the crazy
Yeah.
thing is that the weeks leading to that game, I can remember us running fucking wind sprints at the end of practices. And like, this is like our 22nd week of football. And people don't realize
Yeah.
when you get to that point, that's 100 plus practices. And our practices are tough. They're like little mini games.
Right.
They're high intensity, especially in New England. Like they practice hard. We practiced hard. And, we were doing those extra wind sprints. And then, it came in to actually help us at the end. Grand master plan of coach worked. And but I ran a sloppy route, and the cardinal sin on that route is if the DB's in between you and the quarterback, and his eyes go to the football, which means it's usually going to be a pick. So once I saw that, I tried to redirect as fast as I could. I stuck my foot in the ground to try to just break it up for an interception. I didn't want the interception because if the interception,
Right.
we're done.
Yeah.
And go back, and I didn't see the other two dudes that were coming in on the pile, and I try to hit it or it gets padded, and one thing happens off a leg, an arm, and I just tried to keep my eye on it and snag it, and was able to. So it was nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys went on to win first Super Bowl in overtime. James White recently retired. Have to think he probably should have been the MVP of that game, but they always give it to the quarterback, except in Super Bowl 53, where you get the honors in that one. So what meant more to you, like the belief to never give up in Super Bowl 51, or being named the MVP of Super Bowl 53?
I don't know. Your first one's pretty good too, though. That's the crazy
Yeah,
thing. They're all pretty cool. Um,
yeah,
I don't really have a favorite one. The special thing about Super Bowl 53 was, the things that I was going through in my life at that point. It was a tough year, suspension, ACL. Like it was a tough year mentally and emotionally and physically, and to end it the way it ended was just like the ultimate victory of my life. Just it was like for me as a person. Um, to be in such a low place. I learned a lot about myself. To be in such a low
yeah.
spot of your life. I mean, you're 32 years old. You tore your ACL, then you get suspended, and you're sitting there at that point. You can't walk. You can't. It was a very low point, and to dig yourself out of that, like you makes yourself grow. And you learn so much from this game, and it's stuff that I can carry on to my parenting and the things I can do now in post football. And it's been like it's those little things in life, and that was pretty
Yeah.
special to have that.
For a guy that did so much just to get a chance and then convert it, how difficult was it for you to know temporarily, I need to walk away?
It was hard. It's very hard. But I knew, when because little remedial things that you used to do at practice were hard. Just your body can't output it, or you're in like what I mean. I was dealing with an acute
Yeah.
injury. Tore the root of my meniscus, and like you're not going to go there, and it's like a 12-month recovery. So I was like, screw that. You can play with it, but it's going to be painful, and it's one of those things where it just was miserable to get through practice. And I love
Yeah.
practice. I mean, you hate practice, but you
Right.
love practice. That's where you
Right.
build your confidence. Practice execution becomes game reality. And that's just the truth. And that's for me, at least. There's some guys like, hey, when the lights shine, they can turn it on. I haven't seen many of them. There's maybe been like one or two. I'm not one of those
Yeah.
guys. And, when you start throwing on the film and, you look old, you're not popping like you used to, and like that hurt my heart. That hurt my heart, and I was like, I can't put
Yeah.
that out there. I can't, I
Yeah.
don't. There's blood in the water. I remember when you'd play guys in their prime when you were young, and then 6 years go by and they're out of their prime, and you're right in your prime. There was blood in the water. You were going after those guys because they used to
Yeah.
take care of you. Now you want to
Yeah.
pay them back, and there's a lot of people I
Yeah.
took care of on that field. So I respect the game too much. I can't go out there and just like you'll get hurt if you're not in that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Schlereth always says he'll watch his last year with the Broncos. He watched tape and like, oh God, who's that guy? He sucks. And he realized, holy shit, that was me.
Yeah.
That's
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I could still get open. I'm not saying that. Like, it's just like it didn't look as crispy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it
Right.
just
Yeah.
you had to work too hard for certain things that you didn't have to work hard on before. And
Yeah.
honestly, it was a great experience because it opened up your mental aspect. When your athleticism tapers, you get your smarter football player, and you have like veteran tricks of the trade. You know what I mean? So then there's little things,
Oh yeah.
and it becomes a little chess match. But like then when the pain outweighs those chess matches, you're like, I'd rather be able to walk on a Monday.
I get it. I get it. So why don't we take our second break here? We'll come back and talk to Julian about what he's doing now and what he sees going forward. Stay with us. Coming back on Half Forgotten History. Hey everybody, what's up? Trey Wingo here, and welcome into a Week 4 edition of the NFL's Trey's Trends, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. The Eagles, let's just say they're doing things right. They're off to a 3-0 start for the first time in 6 seasons, and let's just say that has significantly increased their odds. This spring at Caesars Sportsbook, they were 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. Now, much better. They are 9-1, tying the Bucs for the third best odds behind only the Bills and, of course, the Chiefs. Now, Doug Peterson is a former Eagles head coach who won a Super Bowl there, and he brings up his Jacksonville Jaguars to Philly this weekend, who are 2-1 this season, straight up and against the spread. And Peterson has done a masterful job this season with the team in Jacksonville that last year was terrible. They tied for the fewest outright wins, 3, and covers 5. Now, the Eagles began the week as a touchdown favorite, and that's good news in Philadelphia. Why? Since the start of last season, the Birds are 9-1 straight up and 6-3-1 against the spread when laying points. If you want more information, and I know you do, download the Caesars Sportsbook app today to get started. All right, now time for the Mercedes-Benz trivia answer. We told you that Julian Edelman was one of only 8 wide receivers ever to be named Super Bowl MVP. Here's the list of the other 7 that have pulled him off. Lynn Swann, Fred Biletnikoff, Cooper Kupp most recently, Jerry Rice, Deion Branch, Hines Ward, and Santonio Holmes. There you have it. That's the entire list. And now back to more of our Half Forgotten History episode with one of those 8 wide receivers to be named Super Bowl MVP, Julian Edelman. All right, back with Julian Edelman on Half Forgotten History. So the transition is always difficult, right? But you found a way to do things that I think you really enjoy in your post-career, starting with working inside the NFL with Paramount, and you're working on a show with a guy that I love and respect, Sam Morrill, Games with Names. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah, when I retired, I was fortunate enough to put a good team around me, for all my off the field things, and we builded a brand through social media. We've been kind of pioneers in this whole game with just social and e-commerce and all these, basically millennial Gen Z things. And it helped me to, land a role on Inside the NFL and go and have the ability to start a podcast, Games with Names, with Sam Morrill, presented by WinPet, of course. So it's been good, and it honestly helps the transition. And it's been something, where like I've been a football player for probably like since I was 8 years old. That's a long time. And even before that, I was running around the grass, but I did have other interests, like I was a very outgoing kid, and I liked dicking around and doing plays, and I liked the attention of, when you're on this, like now that I'm done, I get to go and explore that. And I'm so grateful for football and for the game, just because it's given me the opportunity now to get to do things that are so fun and amazing, and like Games with Names. Like I get to chop it up over, the best sports games over history with a stand-up comic, Sam Morril, who's funny ass dude, and it's just like
Yeah, he's hilarious.
talking jaw with the boys and the ladies. You know what I mean? It's just talking
Yeah,
sports and really just having fun conversations. And like I said earlier, like if I wasn't going to play football, I wanted that camaraderie, and that's why I was looking at firehouses. With inside the
yeah,
NFL, I have those guys, and it's like there's a camaraderie. You got Mr. Sims and JB and Mike Irvin, Ray Lewis, Brandon Marshall, and we get to have
yeah.
that breaking bread and just locker room kind of vibe. And then I get on the podcast with Sam on Games with Names, and we started this whole thing, and it's the same thing. It's just like you're getting a fan's perspective with an athlete's perspective, with the perspective of a guy that was actually involved with the game, or a celebrity that loves that game, or it's just fun, and I'm so thankful for football for this.
I mean, Sam's all in on New York, though, and you obviously made your living in Boston. You guys work our way around this stumbling block of like Eli Manning and everything else in the relationship.
I mean, if I have to hear one more thing about Eli Manning, this guy, I swear, I don't think it's on. Sam, I don't think it's on the actual podcast or any of the feeds, but I think he has like Eli Manning underwear. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
This guy loves his New York stuff, and he's not ashamed or scared to use it in any climate of anything, especially with certain people you bring. Like we got Teddy Bruschi on this thing, and like
Yeah.
Teddy's an intense guy. You worked with Teddy.
Yes, he is. I
You
know
can't
it.
just
Yeah.
talk shit to Teddy. And you
Yeah.
got Sam over here. You guys got to go listen to that, and he's just busting balls. And I'm like, man, these guys, these comics these guys are nuts.
They live on the
They
edge.
live on the
They
edge.
live on the edge. Yeah, Brewski's wild eyes. Like I've seen those on more than one occasion. I'm like, okay, I'll take it back. We'll just take it back here a second. We'll just dial it down just a little bit.
God,
So is the bromance with you and Tom still going strong?
yeah, it's we're a little separated right now. He's busy. He's a little busy right now.
Yeah.
I understand that.
He's got a lot of shit going on. Apparently, he says got a lot of shit going.
Got a lot
on.
of stuff going on, and and it's also one of those things where I'm not in the game no more right now.
Yeah.
And I remember, like when you're in it, you don't want to bug guys. Like he's got shit he's got to do.
Yeah.
He's got a family. He's got a season. I know what he's about to go through right now. These 18 weeks plus, with playoffs, and you give if the old Gipper needs someone to hit up, he can hit up the little Gipper and we'll get it going. But you don't hit him up. You let him do what he's got to do.
Yeah. I mean, like he's still ridiculous. I mean, look, 44 years old, he led the league in touchdown passes. Is there any I have no idea how long he's going to play, but do you see any decline in his game at all?
Not really. I think
Yeah.
I could see. I worked with Tom and all his throwing mechanics with all his coaches. I was always a receiver catching, so I see all his mechanic things that he works and stuff, like the Dak thing. Dak Prescott's fucking little dance.
Oh yeah, the hip thing.
That's Tom.
Yeah, the hip thing.
That's Tom House.
Yeah.
And Tom was the first one to do that little thing. He just doesn't do it as swaggy as Dak. I'll be the first to tell you that. But so I can see in how what he's been working through his throwing, and he's still zinging it, man. It's impressive, but it doesn't surprise me because of the simple fact that he's 45 and he still has his quarterback coach probably come and see him at least once every few months just to tighten things up. And that's the kind of mindset that is going to allow that man to do whatever he wants and play for however long he wants to, because he's always prepared. And he's got Alex rubbing his shoulder all day long. I mean, this guy's eating nothing but
avocado toast in there.
Yeah, he's like a bird. He eats nothing but seeds and nuts and stuff. It's gnarly. I figure he's gonna live to about probably like 172 years old.
Well, he still looks like he's 17. So we'll see what happens with him going forward. But listen, you've been really generous with your time. We're assuming that for the short term you're not going to play again. But what would you say to someone who was going through the things that you did when you were waiting on puberty to hit and waiting on someone to believe in you as a player, waiting on someone to draft you. You get into the league and you're stuck behind somebody and you're just waiting on your opportunity. What would you say to someone who looks at Julian Edelman's career and says, how do I do that?
I would say if you're confident and you're passionate about something and you really love something, don't bitch and complain, because that's only going to waste your time.
Yeah.
Harness that energy and literally find out what you have to do through a coach, a mentor, or whatever. Don't just work hard, because working hard is not working smart. You need to find out what you have to do, work hard at that every day, compound that like for a long time, and you're going to see improvement. And whether you succeed or you don't, you're going to see when you put your mind to something and you constantly do it through repetition and repetition and repetition, and you find that day that you see the improvement, it's going to be the most exhilarating thing. And if things pair up where in your situation that you're trying to go for, it works out, But if it doesn't, you're going to learn something.
And just make sure the team you play for doesn't sign Danny Amendola.
The crazy thing is he's my best friend.
I know.
Before then,
Yeah.
It was just nuts.
Thanks again to Julian Edelman for joining us, and check out his new podcast with comedian Sam Morril, Games with Names. Sam, by the way, also a former guest on the show. Really, really funny dude. But coming up next week, a really interesting guest who almost had a single-game rushing record in the NFL while being completely hungover. I mean, that's a skill, and I respect it. I'm talking about, of course, former Jags running back Fred Taylor. We'll see you and hear from him next week.